opinion of something much bigger, but then at least they what they understand. We've educated in the end about certificates. But then
identify new drivers for political, economic and connectivity cooperation, and finally exploring forward-looking priorities in the green transition, digital transformation and regional security. With that, it's my pleasure to give the floor to Ambassador Roman Vasilevko.
Thank you so much, dear Mr. Stevens, for such a glowing introduction, which I don't think I deserve, but well, it's a great pleasure, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, to be here with you, and an honor, in fact, to welcome you for this briefing, and thank you for braving the strike and coming over. Indeed, Kazakhstan and the European Union enjoy a solid, long-standing strategic partnership grounded in mutual respect, shared interests and goals, and a commitment to the law-based international order grounded in the principles of the United Nations Charter. This December, we will celebrate the 10th anniversary of the signing of the Enhanced Partnership and Cooperation Agreement between Kazakhstan and the European Union and its member states. Kazakhstan thus became the first among Central Asian countries to sign and ratify this agreement that is called the New Generation Agreement. It serves as a comprehensive framework for our political, economic, and sectoral cooperation across 29 areas. We value our engagement with the EU as our leading trade and investment partner, but also as a key partner on many global challenges, from climate change and connectivity to regional security and sustainable development. I would like to point out a very dynamic political dialogue that we have established with the European Union. Kazakhstan's President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev held bilateral meetings with presidents of the European Council Antonio Costa and European Commission Ursula von der Leyen last April in Samarkand. Our leaders participated in the Central Asia European Union Summit, where the partnership between the two regions was elevated to a strategic level. Last September, President Tokayev met with Antonio Costa on the sidelines of the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly in New York. Next week in Brussels, the 22nd meeting of the Kazakhstan EU Cooperation Council will take place at the ministerial level, and the leaders will review the implementation of this enhanced partnership and cooperation agreement and discuss our rapidly expanding agenda, including trade, investment, humanitarian ties, and political dialogue that will continue at the highest level in the very near future in Astana as well. The meetings in Samarkand and New York, in Astana and Brussels, underscore shared priorities, expanding cooperation in connectivity, critical minerals, digital innovation, agriculture, and education. Over the recent years, we have witnessed how Kazakhstan's relationship with the EU has continued growing stronger and more dynamic. Despite geopolitical turmoil and global economic instability, the EU remains Kazakhstan's largest trading and investment partner, with the bilateral trade volume nearing $50 billion in 2024. which is 90% of the EU's trade with the region of Central Asia. This year, this volume also remains central to our economy and strategic partnerships. Since Kazakhstan's independence, the EU has invested more than $200 billion in the Kazakh economy, and about 4,000 European companies operate successfully in our country. We reaffirm our determination to further diversify and expand these ties, creating new opportunities for our businesses and citizens. Particular attention is paid to expanding access to the EU market for agricultural products from Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan remains a reliable and responsible partner for the European Union, contributing significantly to Europe's wider energy security. Kazakhstan supplies around 13% of the EU's oil consumption and approximately 16% of its uranium needs, making our country a stable pillar in Europe's diversified energy infrastructure. In this regard, we reaffirm our commitment to ensuring the continued, secure, and uninterrupted supply of Kazakh oil to the EU market. In our talks with the EU, particular attention is given to the Middle Corridor, a vital and strategic route connecting Asia and Europe. As global supply chains undergo transformation, the importance of this Trans-Caspian route becomes ever more evident. Located at the heart of Eurasia, Kazakhstan serves as a key bridge between East and West. As President Tokayev stated in his State of the Nation address last September, the development of transport and logistics infrastructure has become one of our national priorities. 13 international transport corridors crossing Kazakhstan, 5 railways and 8 motorways carry around 85% of overland freight cargo between Asia and Europe. Over the past 15 years, we have invested more than $35 billion in the modernization of the transport sector, resulting in its sustained growth. By 2030, Kazakhstan will invest an additional $15 billion to further strengthen connectivity, including new rail links to China and Afghanistan, with further access to the market of Pakistan, and the construction and modernization of 13,000 kilometers of highways. Air connectivity is also expanding, with Kazakhstan now having direct air connections to 30 countries. And not stopping there, we are ready to expand air traffic with the European Union under the Open Skies policy. Digital transformation and large-scale implementation of artificial intelligence remain central to our vision. The upcoming smart cargo platform will integrate customs and logistics processes, contributing to Kazakhstan's goal of becoming a fully digital state. Speaking in greater detail about the Trans-Caspian International Transport Route, or the Middle Corridor, it has already demonstrated significant growth. Its current capacity stands at 6 million tons per year. By the end of 2024, cargo volumes have increased by 62% year on year, reaching 4.5 million tons. And that volume is expected to reach 5.2 million tons this year. By 2028, we aim to expand the corridor's capacity to 10 million tons annually. Positive developments in the South Caucasus, of course, the ongoing process towards signing the peace agreement between Armenia and Azerbaijan, further strengthen the corridor. During Azeri President Ilham Aliyev's visit to Kazakhstan last October, a historic announcement lifted all transit restrictions via Azerbaijan to Armenia, and the first shipments of Kazakh grain have already reached their destination, which is a concrete step that builds trust, strengthens regional ties, and reminds us that connectivity is also a path to peace. As we can see, the middle corridor is evolving beyond a mere transport route. It is becoming a strategic partnership platform that connects economies, technologies, and people. These joint efforts strengthen Eurasia's connectivity and align with the EU's Global Gateway and China's Belt and Road initiatives, which we view as complementary to each other. Moreover, we see many mutually beneficial opportunities in terms of a possible synergy between the EU's Trans-European Transport Network policy, TEN-T, and the efforts of Central Asian countries to develop transport connectivity. We would like to call on the EU, its member states, as well as financial institutions to move faster and focus on practical implementations of the 2023 EBRD report on both hard and soft infrastructure in Central Asia. Kazakhstan, in turn, is committed to working closely with the European Union and all regional partners to ensure that the Middle Corridor evolves into a modern, efficient, safe, and sustainable artery of cross-regional trade. Another forward-looking dimension of our cooperation is our work on critical raw materials and the broader green and digital transitions. Kazakhstan possesses both natural potential and strong political will to develop this sector in a responsible and mutually beneficial way. Kazakhstan can supply 21 out of 34 elements identified in the EU's Critical Raw Materials Act, with more deposits under preparation for future extraction. We already export copper, chromium, titanium, phosphorus, beryllium, tantalum, and manganese to the European market. Our joint work under the 2025-2026 roadmap, including the Saritogan graphite project's inclusion onto the EU's list of strategic projects, demonstrates how seriously both sides take this agenda. Our cooperation with the EU on CRM value chains is emerging as one of the most promising areas, an area that will support Europe's industrial resilience while enabling Kazakhstan to modernize its economy. I would also like to highlight the importance of interparliamentary cooperation, which forms the democratic backbone of our political dialogue. Last week, Brussels hosted the 22nd meeting of the Parliamentary Cooperation Committee between the Kazakh Parliament and the European Parliament, which was productive and encouraging. It demonstrated once again that our partnership is strengthened not only by governments, but also by the active engagement of legislators, experts, and civil societies on both sides. Equally important are the people-to-people contacts that serve as the living bridge between our nations. Education, cultural exchange, academic mobility, and youth cooperation are essential for our lasting partnership. In this context, we warmly welcome the decision by the EU member states to grant the European Commission mandates to negotiate visa facilitation and readmission agreements with Kazakhstan. And this decision represents a significant step toward bringing our peoples even closer, enabling greater mobility, more opportunities for students and professionals, and deeper mutual understanding. Ladies and gentlemen, today Kazakhstan and the European Union have built a mature, confident, and future-oriented partnership. It is a partnership rooted in shared values, enriched by mutual interests, and guided by a common vision of regional and global stability. As we look to the next decade of cooperation, we remain committed to working hand in hand with the European Union, expanding our strategic dialogue, strengthening economic ties, enhancing regional connectivity, and nurturing the human bonds that sustain every successful partnership. And we are confident that together we will continue to transform our shared goals into concrete achievements for the benefit of our peoples. Thank you. I'll be more than happy to answer all your questions.
to ask you how you cope and how you see your country coping with a multi-vector policy that maintains strong ties with both of these powers, but also maintaining relations with the EU.
Thank you so much. Well, our relations with our immediate neighbors, two largest countries in the world, one by population, other by size, Russia and China, are integral parts of our pragmatic and balanced foreign policy. Other parts of which, of course, is the development of cooperation with the West, with the Islamic world. And in the almost 35 years of our independence, we have learned to appreciate this balanced and pragmatic approach in our foreign policy, ever so conscious of the fact that by having this normal, mutually beneficial, mutually constructive, mutually respectful relations with all these key global actors, Kazakhstan, first and foremost, promotes the national interests. Kazakhstan is the ninth largest country in the world by territory, but Kazakhstan is a country that has 20 million people living there. And for us, neighboring such big countries, influential countries, diplomacy is the answer. It has been learned by our ancestors. It has been financed by our leaders. And our current president, Kassym-Jomart Tokayev, as the foreign minister in the early years of independence, has contributed significantly to drafting these foreign policies that we maintain right now. Our fundamental tenet is that the United Nations Charter is and remains and will be the guiding light upon which we should build our relations with all neighbors, and that is why we are so clear in our support for the United Nations, in our support for the United Nations Charter, and in our support for the United Nations Security Council reform, which we understand is needed to make this institution even more relevant to addressing the challenges of the global world today. I mentioned that if we talk about Russia, China, and the EU, and I would add the United States for good measure, because it's still the collective West. Well, I would say that the EU, as I mentioned in the remarks, is indeed our largest trade and investment partner as a collective of 27 member states. Taken individually, it is China which has become our largest trading partner as of last year, overtaking Russia. And so these two are most important trading partners for us. It's obvious. They're big countries, they are immediate neighbors, and we are also part of the Eurasian Economic Union with Russia. But as we develop our economy, we see great value in continuing to cooperate closely with the EU in attracting not just foreign direct investment, but also technologies. For example, I mentioned critical raw materials. Indeed, this is a very, very hot subject. It is something we work on a daily basis with the EU and with other partners. But I would say that we see the potential of cooperation with the EU not so much in attracting investment in the extraction of these critical raw materials, but also in the processing inside the country. And that's one of the priorities our government has, and this is one of the recipes for success for companies that would like to cooperate with Kazakhstan in the development of critical raw materials, to have the ability to bring not just money, but technology for processing these goods in Kazakhstan before exporting them, thus creating an added value in our country. So, in a nutshell, our principled political position vis-à-vis the global challenges of the world today, including various wars that rage in various regions, has earned Kazakhstan respect and understanding of our principles. And on the economic side, our cooperation with our immediate neighbors and with the West remains critical to the success of Kazakhstan as an independent and prosperous nation. And the country is large, the possibilities are huge, and there is room for everybody, we believe, in making a profit for themselves, but also for us. That's the approach.
Thank you. You take something from that. You talk about Russia and China and the USA and the EU. Russia, China and the USA have, I would have thought, one chain of command, one decision-making process, governmentally. Whereas you mentioned in your speech, one of the things you'd like to see is call on the EU to move faster. Does the fact that the EU is 27 different nations cause you problems, or is it something that you need to cope with?
Well, this is the reality, so we hope, we have learned a long time ago, when we continue to keep learning to navigate the Brussels machinery. I don't want to say bureaucracy, machinery. But I think it's by now it's quite organized. Yes, of course it would have been much simpler if there was one decision-making center, but that's also the strength of the EU, that this is a collective of the 27 member states, and once the decision is made, it is the decision of all 27 member states. But that call that I made was in relation to our cooperation on connectivity and CRMs, because these are the two hottest issues on the agenda. And I can give you an example, which I think will be also discussed later this week in Tashkent at the third economic forum between European Union and Central Asia. And that is that almost 2 years ago, here in Brussels, the first investors forum took place that pledged 10 billion euros from the EU and EU-supported financial institutions into the development of the infrastructure projects in Central Asia. That was in furtherance of this EBRD study from 2023, which I also mentioned, which identified 32 or 33 hard infrastructure projects and 7 soft infrastructure projects in Central Asia requiring 18.5 billion euros. So if you ask me where we are now and how well we did in the intervening 2 years, almost 2 years, I would say that we are perhaps in very early stages of implementing those commitments. The EBRD, for example, has up to now signed loan agreements with Kazakhstan on infrastructure to the tune of $800 million. The EIB is catching up. They've signed a loan agreement with the Development Bank in Kazakhstan in March this year for 200 million euros. So we can't say that we haven't moved, but we can say that we have just started moving forward. And yes, there are a lot of bureaucratic reasons for this, or there is a reason of having to do a lengthy feasibility study for this project or for that project, but our call therefore is to speed up all those considerations as much as possible. The market is there, the market demand is there. We need to build up these capacities now, and that's why our pledge is to work equally fast as it is possible for the EU and the financial institutions to implement those projects.
Energy transition and climate commitments. I'm fascinated that you say out of 34 critical minerals, you have 21 of them. That's amazing. I'd like to just reflect on energy stability and security, and you talked about guaranteeing oil supply to Europe. Would you like to expand on that at all?
Are we able to expand?
Yes.
Yes, thank you very much. It's a very pertinent question. Well, just to give you some more numbers, I hope I didn't overload you with numbers. Kazakhstan produces around just under 100 million tons of oil a year, of which we export 80%. And of those exports that we do, 95%, I would say, goes to Europe, which is making up those 13% of European Union's oil imports that I mentioned in my remarks. We are part of the OPEC Plus arrangement. We, of course, work with other parties in that arrangement. We are limited in how much we can export through the existing infrastructure, because one can say that it is almost at its full capacity, but we are working to expand those volumes, including through the middle corridor, so that we can add extra million or 2 or 3 million of oil that we will export via the Caspian Sea to Azerbaijan and then further via the Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan pipeline. But I would highlight the fact that the largest share of these exports is exported via the CPC pipeline that takes oil from Tengiz, the 6th largest oil field in the world, to Novorossiysk, the Russian Black Sea port, from where it is exported by tankers to Europe mostly. And even in these almost 4 years of the conflict in Ukraine, that route has been instrumental for Kazakh oil exports. It isn't sanctioned or impacted by the restrictive measures by any of the Western sanctioning jurisdictions, because it exports more than 90% of Kazakh oil. And it is important for that information to be shared with all the decision makers in this town and in other European capitals, that this is the artery that brings Kazakh oil to Europe, and it needs to be protected from any negative influence.
Thank you. On the wider subject of energy, I noticed when I was doing my research for today that Kazakhstan's pledged carbon neutrality by 2060. Do you see the EU helping you with this in any way, with finance or technology or anything?
Yes, there are specific examples. For example, there is a contract with Total Energies of France to build a wind farm in the Zhambyl region in the south of Kazakhstan with a capacity of 1.2 gigawatt. 1.2 gigawatt. And that is, as I said, wind farm that is also going to contribute to the energy mix in the country. there is an even larger, much larger project that is in the works, led by Sweden, a formerly Swedish-German concern, now it's purely German company that has a contract to build a 30 gigawatt wind and solar power plant in the west of the country, which will then be used to, some of it will be used domestically, but most of this energy, enormous amount of energy, will be used for producing green hydrogen there in the west of the country. So elsewhere, Kazakhstan, as you may know, is a country also rich in uranium, natural uranium. We supply more than 40% of the global uranium, natural uranium needs, and a decision was made by our people at a referendum a year ago to build up Kazakhstan's first nuclear power plant. But we are planning to do that with consortia that will include prominent international companies, ensuring the best safety technologies. We have now agreed that Rosatom of Russia will lead the first consortium, but discussions are still ongoing with other potential members of that consortium or of any other consortia that will build Kazakhstan's second or potentially third nuclear power plant. And these companies include EDF of France, KHNP of South Korea, and CNNC of China. So you heard the name of the French company. They too are in the discussions with our agency for atomic agency to participate and build Kazakhstan's nuclear power plants. So that's another type of contribution. But then, as I mentioned, we are working with the EU to develop various projects in critical raw materials, which are critical for digital and green transition, and not just in the EU but also in Kazakhstan. So we are looking forward to the expansion of this cooperation. For now, it's just one Kazakh project that is selected by the EU as a strategic project, meaning that the European Union pledges to look for investment in the development of this project, but also then in the buying of its products, in this case battery-grade graphite. So we have, as I mentioned, the roadmap for cooperation between the EU and Kazakhstan in critical raw materials for 2025-2026, but already the parties are discussing the future. I'm sorry, 2024-2025. For next year, we will get a new one, and it's a very clear step-by-step roadmap where we will take the development of critical raw materials, and the environmental issues are very much prominent in this cooperation with the EU.
Because you've given us a good overview of the past 10 years and the successes to date. If we look towards the next 10 years, what would a fully realised Kazakhstan EU strategic partnership look like in 10 years' time?
Thank you. Well, I'm sure we will be closer to each other in terms of, well, as much as geography would allow that, meaning we will be linked by a much stronger and much more diversified and resilient middle corridor. We will be linked by a much closer people-to-people ties. Well, the negotiations over the visa facilitation and readmission agreement, we hope will start soon, and we hope will proceed fast. And so that certainly within the next few years, we will have a result of these negotiations and two agreements in place, which will further make travel for the citizens of Kazakhstan easier to the EU. We, of course, provide a visa-free travel to the citizens of all OECD member states, including all 27 EU member states. Thanks to this cooperation with the EU, I am certain our economy will be also more resilient, diversified, more technologically advanced. I would also highlight the space as one of the next frontiers of cooperation. Kazakhstan is developing its own space industry. We are reaching out to various companies, not just Airbus and Thales, which are joining these particular parts of their businesses, but also to other companies, including a Brussels-based company, Airspace Lab, to also work with them on the development of satellites. So, in a nutshell, it will be a more robust, closely knit, more productive, and very much promising and forward-looking cooperation 10 years from now. I mean, we are happy with the level of cooperation now, but I hope ourselves, if we are still in service at that time, and then our successors will be even more satisfied.
Well, it would certainly be nice to see you here.
Between Kazakhstan and Belgium, with the upcoming visit of His Majesty King Philip to Kazakhstan in 2026. How do you see the future cooperation between our two nations?
Just asked. Okay.
Just for those who didn't hear it, how do you see the future cooperation between Belgium and Kazakhstan?
Yes. Well, it is already a very solid relationship. Belgium is one of the top investors in Kazakhstan and one of our largest trading partners. There are about 100 or so companies with Belgian participation in Kazakhstan. A lot of them are in the transport and logistics sector. I would mention companies such as Sarens, Alers, Yandanul, but there are others that are developing their ties, developing their presence in Kazakhstan. Just a couple of weeks ago, Le Pain Quotidien, a chain famous here, Belgian-based chain, opened its first store in Kazakhstan. By the way, with speculoos being the most popular good that they sell, and the speculoos paste to go with the biscuits. And they have plans to open up to 14 such stores throughout the country, as there is a growing demand for such a kind of services. So I think that our political relations are excellent, our economic relations are strong and growing, our education and cultural cooperation is also quite intensive, I should say, but we will hope to have more Kazakh students come here. We would like to have a partnership set up between, a deeper partnership compared to the ones we have between universities. For example, there are branches of universities from the UK, from Germany, from France, from Italy, from the US, from China, South Korea, and Kazakhstan, but there is no such partnership yet with the Belgian universities, and we certainly hope that in the next few months and years we will see such cooperation in place. Football diplomacy is all the rage, shall we say, in Kazakh-Belgian relations. Kazakhs are very hospitable people, so when they came here in September, they lost to Belgium 6-0, but at home we drew 1-1. But then Kairat Almaty will host Brugge in January, And just tonight in Belgium, Kairat plays Anderlecht in futsal, not football, but futsal. So this is very intensive. I don't know if we've been playing so much with other countries in the short period of time. So all in all, we also hope that next year we will expand this cooperation in the cultural area with some exhibitions, concerts. In fact, before even not waiting for next year, we will host several cultural events in December where we are inviting all of you, including concerts, movie screenings, and some further discussions about EU and Kazakhstan and Belgium-Kazakhstan relations.
Thank you. Nawab Khan is my name. I am a journalist from India writing for the Indian press. Mr. Ambassador, you spoke about your relations with China, with Russia. Now India is also a major country in the area. So how are your relations developing, economic, political, and what are your relations or approaching with Afghanistan? And have you any role there to promote development, education, etc.? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I'll try my best to answer such a specific question. But yes, we've exchanged visits with with Indian leadership, meaning Narendra Modi has visited Kazakhstan, and our foreign minister was there just recently, earlier this year. We've launched with India Central Asia plus India format. By the way, there are 13 such formats for Central Asia with outside countries, partners now, including the one with India. It's a relative newcomer. For years, our cooperation with India, I would say, faced the tough challenge of overland connectivity, or rather lack thereof. But you mentioned Afghanistan, and I would say that indeed Afghanistan is for Central Asians the way south towards India. First we will have to cross Pakistan. For that, of course, the cooperation among all the parties is needed. Kazakhstan is now in very intensive talks with Afghanistan to build a stretch of railways in the west of the country, along the border with Iran, which will be 150 kilometers long, with the eventual extension to Pakistan, which is what I mentioned in my remarks. We are engaging with the current de facto Afghan authorities. Just 2 weeks ago, we hosted here our special envoy from the President on Afghanistan, who met with his counterparts from other Central Asian countries and with the EU Special Envoy for Afghanistan and EU Special Envoy for Central Asia for their regular coordination meeting. Our approach is that we need to engage with these authorities, de facto authorities. The recognition of the Taliban as the government of Afghanistan is dependent on the UN recognition and UN Security Council recognition, and we are engaging in a de facto cooperation with them right now. It is a promising market for us, for our grain exports, for our machinery exports, and Afghanistan is a source, of course, of fruits, vegetables, and other kind of agricultural products. I wanted to say something, but I forgot, but maybe I remember by the time I answer the next question.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for this briefing, Ambassador. Now, in recent years, we've seen a new spirit of regional cooperation or regional integration, some might say, in Central Asia. So what has been Kazakhstan's inputs and role in driving this process of regional cooperation forward?
Well, thank you so much. We, of course, are of the opinion that in Central Asia, we can either succeed together, which is preferable, of course, or fail together. So that's why we are so keen on making sure that we cooperate in the 5-sided, and since last week 6-sided format, as of Azerbaijan has been welcomed as a full member of this coordination platform that we have between the 5 countries. Kazakhstan has long argued for a deeper cooperation in Central Asia. Just as you know, the first such meeting in the Central Asia proper format of the 5 countries took place in Astana in 2018. Now we held, I believe last week's summit was the 8th such meeting. And the previous one in Astana in August 2024 resulted in the adoption of the Central Asia Vision 2040, where we have outlined where we want to take Central Asia as a region. I think that we can say with pleasure that things are moving forward in our cooperation with all 5 countries. The bilateral trade now exceeds the intra-regional trade now exceeds $11 billion, rising from $5 billion when this process began in 2018, as a result of the common and coordinated work to promote inter-regional trade, to remove inter-regional trade barriers, etc., etc. Just again, last Sunday, not this Sunday, Sunday before last, at the summit in Uzbekistan, our president again suggested that we find some other avenues for cooperation, including by developing a coordinated vision for the transport and logistics infrastructure in Central Asia, for there isn't any at this stage, as there is, say, in the European Union with TEN-T, Trans-European Network Transport. The same idea is there, to develop a coordinated vision, so that, of course, there will be competition, friendly competition, but there needs to be a greater coordination, even in the way we build those arteries of transport in Central Asia. Kazakhstan has always been and will always be one of the strongest supporters of regional cooperation in Central Asia.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to ask a question? No? Okay. Well, I'm going to ask a few more questions on behalf of our online viewers, if I may. People to people and cultural diplomacy. You mentioned earlier about people to people, and you used an interesting phrase, a living bridge. What did you mean by that?
Well,
I think I know, but
yes.
I'm asking you.
Well, one specific example that comes to mind is Kazakhstan Deutsche, or Kazakh German, Germans who live in Germany now, numbering 1 million people. But they are indeed a living bridge that connect the 2 countries, because they've maintained some relatives. We still have 225,000 Germans in Kazakhstan. But they maintain ties, they maintain business links, they develop those business links. Some of them are going back to live and do business in agriculture in Kazakhstan. There are many cases of such reverse migration, shall we say. This is one example. The other example is, of course, students who are studying abroad from Kazakhstan, but increasingly in Kazakhstan. We now have 31,000 foreign students from Kazakhstan, from abroad in Kazakhstan. This is a number unheard of for our country only 5 years ago. And now our ambitious goal, our ambitious Ministry of Science and Higher Education's goal is to drive this number to 150,000 within the next 3 to 4 years. Now I remember what I wanted to say about India, and that's among those there are not just there are people from around the world, many Indians, but increasingly Europeans who go to Kazakhstan to study. So it's not one way, no longer one way. It's the other way around. As young people appreciate the opportunity to receive higher education at affordable prices, competitive education that allows them to be, especially if those are done under dual diplomas. So this is what we meant. I hope that once we complete these negotiations over the visa facilitation and readmission agreement with the EU, there will be more Kazakhs traveling to the EU, bringing back positive memories, positive impressions. Around 120,000 Kazakh citizens go to the European countries annually. Pretty much the same number returns. There is no risk of outward migration out of Kazakhstan. But I'm sure that with visa facilitation, these numbers will double, triple in the next few years. And this will be the living bridge that will draw us even closer together.
Okay, thank you. And have our own living bridge over a cocktail afterwards. So, thank you
so
very much.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. Thank you for everything.